Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast from still the aforementioned Chase Thomas coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me from SaturdayDownSouth.com, it's Ethan Stone. Ethan, good evening, sir. How are you?
I am doing very well. I mowed the lawn today. I went outside and actually, all my grass is dying right now because it's 10 trillion degrees outside. So I needed one more big mow, and then I think I'm going to be done for a pretty decent while because there's just no more grass left at this point. Because as I've said, we're going on what, week 2, 3 now of straight feels like 100 degrees. So I don't know about you guys. I'm sick of it, but I'm definitely ready to talk some Tennessee football, Tennessee athletics with you guys.
Cleese the dog is sick of it because it's hard to find the time to walk her because it's just like 90 degrees early and then it's 90 degrees late. And you're like, man, I don't know. It's been tough. She's been a huge winners and losers column. Cleese the dog, summer loser here in Knoxville, Tennessee because of this heat, because it's just, she thinks she wants to go out and then we'll go out and she's like, oh yeah, no, still bad. Never mind. Back in the house. Full on, what's his name? Howie from the Benchwarmers. Sun bad. Not my friend. But yeah, speaking of sun bad, not his friend, but yet he still ventures out on the golf course every day. I know he was in the golf course today because Caleb Giroux of the Daily Times informed me before we went on the air that he's tracking Ryan Schumpert's golf app and when he's going golfing. So he was like, yeah, no, Ryan, I think is golfing today. And I was like, how do you know that? And he's like, yeah, he updates his app. So he's got Shump's got a letterbox tracker or Goodreads tracker for the golf courses, which is right on brand. Rocket Top Insider, Ryan Schumpert is here, obviously. How are you?
Good. I have 2 of those 3 things. I have the golf version. I do use Goodreads, not a letterbox guy. But hate to inform you that Caleb Giroux is fake news media, was not on the golf course today, was driving back from Nashville. One of a trek that I've made.
Did you log it today, though?
Log what?
That you
Golfing?
were on the golf course? Oh, you
No.
didn't log like a previous day or something. Okay.
No. I did play yesterday evening, so I mean, maybe he just clicked on the app. I probably would have been the last of his friends playing yesterday. So maybe that confused him. You know, I've made the trek from Nashville to Knoxville on 40. I don't know, it'd be a good thought exercise, probably around 100 times now driving myself. I think today was the slowest ever. Absolutely brutal trek. So glad to be out of the car and talking a little ball.
Man, yeah, I think if I had to do the Atlanta drive a lot, it would drive me nuts because I feel like a lot of people complain about Chattanooga traffic, like when she gets there and things like that. I would imagine it would drive me nuts, but I just don't do it that often. So I just don't really sit in any kind of traffic. But if y'all want to break down here over the next 40 minutes, like how we can fix traffic and if we should expand the lanes, do we need more lanes on the highways? Do we need less? What's the fix here as the gridlock guys is what they call us all across East Tennessee. Ethan's got a take here.
Less human beings. That'll help it. Get out of here.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to get more. I think we're growing.
We're going down.
It's just going to get worse.
I'm talking about Knoxville, Tennessee.
Well, maybe Knoxville, Tennessee. I know.
Are you talking about the birth rate here?
I know the birth rate in the United States as a whole is going down.
Yeah. So, but Knoxville, Tennessee, I think it's going up. And part of it is the Schumpert family and their park. Getting rated number 2 park nationally only hurts things because people Google, they're like, oh, Tommy Schumpert Park, got to go here. They're building a new neighborhood across the street. Maybe we need to jump in here. And I don't want to say it's directly correlated to the Schumpert family name, but I'm also not saying it isn't.
Yeah, you might have me on that one. I don't have a good retort for that. It's the dog lovers. You got a top 5 dog park in the country, and it's not 5, 4, or 3. Yeah, that's probably not helping things.
Oh man, but it's a good park. I just love it because I don't use the dog park there, and it's just like the whole part of it is like I take my dog everywhere around the dog park. But you know, it is what it is. Great wooded area, good disc golf. But unfortunately, we're full here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We're full. It's we have a good amount of folks, so we're all right. Nashville's where you want to go. If you really want to get some free open area where there's just not, you kind of wonder about the growth, where you want to go is Nashville, Tennessee. Franklin, Tennessee, especially, that's where you want to go. Like that's an area sneaky on the rise, but could really, really use some more folks. So all the folks wondering, oh, should I go to Tennessee, Nashville, Knoxville? You want to go to Nashville. That's
Yeah,
what many.
unless you're a blue chip recruit, then I think Knoxville there's room for you in Knoxville. Great place to be.
It's true. Just run it by Ryan, Ethan, or myself. Like just run it by us. Just run it by the Rocky Top Insider guys as a whole, maybe just to get like if you qualify in terms of what we're looking for in Knoxville, Tennessee. Ryan, what is, speaking of recruiting and the transfer portal here, Tennessee maybe solidifying their weekend staff, their weekend rotation in 2026 with a kind of, I don't want to say surprise because it's still late in the process. It's not like it came out of left field, but a big name, Evan Blanco, lefty. We wondered if they would go 3 righties in the rotation next year. Blanco was a preseason second-team All-American at Virginia, a team that was a preseason number 2 team nationally. They finished strong, but they just got off to a terrible start and missed the tournament. And it was just kind of a rough year for the Hoos. Now their coach is gone, and Tennessee might have Blanco and Ford, depending on how things go. But, he needs to stop playing in the Cape. We need to hide Henry Ford until after the draft. We need to do whatever it takes. If I was an MLB team, I would be nervous about that final season in Charlottesville. I want to see what he does in Knoxville, Tennessee, in one more additional year. If I'm every single MLB team, that's my mindset is let's make sure Henry Ford is who we think he is. And that means he has to be in Knoxville, Tennessee next year. That's just me. That's what I would do if I was any of the other 30 MLB GMs here in the month of July. But what are the Vols getting in Blanco, Ryan Schumpert, and how big of an addition is he?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty sizable addition because of the need for left-handed arms, because he has starting experience, and certainly his 2025 season didn't go the way that he hoped or expected. But in 2024, he was a weekend starter all year, finished the year as the ace on a Virginia team that made it to Omaha and was, I can't remember exactly where they were ranked, but I think in the top 5, at least the top 10 preseason this past year. So a very capable starting pitcher, a guy I don't think it's just like a complete lock that he's going to be a weekend starter, but I think when you just look at things objectively, while there will be competition, it's hard not to think he is one of the most likely candidates to be one of those weekend arms. And if you're Tennessee, you just hope that you can keep him healthy and get back to where he was in 2024 when he was, like I said, a lead weekend arm on a team good enough to make it to Omaha. So it is interesting. I mean, just following college baseball nationally, afar would probably be too dramatic of a term, but I'm not locked in watching every game over the course of the season, but you're kind of following storylines. And for so much of last year, it was the first half of the season, at least, it was Virginia just getting assaulted by injuries. And, we're kind of getting an upfront look at that with Tennessee now. Henry Ford missed a lot of time due to injury in the same situation for Evan Blanco. So 2 guys that Tennessee hopes will be fully healthy and in orange and white next season.
So does he profile better than Lloyd potentially? Like, Tennessee may have messed around and get an upgrade in the lefty weekend spot, even if he's a long-term reliever, maybe in a Nate Snead type role, depending on how things unfold. Like, is there more upside with Blanco?
Yeah, I think so for sure. With the more upside, in large part because it's upside in the sense that he's proved it. Like he's shown. And I don't know enough about Evan Blanco to say what he did in 2024 was his ceiling, but if that was his ceiling, it was really good. And I don't know that while Dylan Loy, we'll see what he does at Georgia Tech this year, and he'll certainly have a bigger role than he had at Tennessee. And goodness knows I'm a Loy boy and always liked Dylan Loy, but I'm not sure he has that type of ceiling. I don't think he has number 1 starter on an Omaha team ceiling. I think he has good weekend starter in the ACC and SEC. A Saturday or Sunday guy, but I don't really see him having that. So I don't know enough about Evan Blanco to put a ceiling on him and say what he can and can't do, but you've already seen what he has been at his best in college. I think is, I would wager is better than what Dylan Loy will be at his best.
That's fair. Ethan, is it time to worry about Dalton Knecht? Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville's John Reed was talking about this morning on Talk Sports, and I thought it was pretty interesting because you're locked in. Ethan is locked in on Summer League. He's watching every Ace Bailey highlight. He's locked in on everything. He's going to be excited about Kennedy Chandler versus Sakai here. I mean, what have you seen from Dalton in his first 2 games? And are you growing increasingly concerned about his long-term place in the NBA based on what you're seeing here?
It's summer league, so I'm not necessarily sure I'm ready to say that he's done or that he's, he's necessarily running into a massive problem. But to say I'm not concerned would be a lie. And it's just by watching him, because it's, to me, and I mean, for those who don't know, he's through 2 games for the Lakers. He's 5 for 20, 0 for 9 from 3. And it's looked even worse than the stats sound. He had one good minute at the end of the Heat game the other night. At the end of the first half, he played pretty well. He had a couple Dalton Connect runs like he usually does. But the problem is his confidence seems like it's just completely out of whack. And really, it seemed that way since the Mark Williams trade was rescinded last year. It seemed a lot like Dalton felt, whether justly or not, whether you believe it's justly or not, whether you believe he should have looked at it a different way. It's almost like he's taking it very, very personally, because it just completely. I mean, he had the 37-point game against the Jazz. He had that one stretch where he was, scoring in double digits just about every game, and some Laker fans were saying, he's the future. He's going to be right there with us for the next little bit. And obviously after the Mark Williams trade happens, he doesn't play at all in the playoffs, when I believe that, the Lakers needed offense in that series, and he didn't play a single minute. Whereas guys who have similarly substantial defensive problems compared to Knecht were playing over him. And I found that a little weird. And then, you start the summer league and he's looked just downright dreadful. To me, he absolutely needs a change of scenery. I'm not sure how much that'll fix. But we've seen him at Tennessee. We know what he can do scoring wise. We know the runs he can go on. And the player he is right now, and although I said that I don't think summer league is you shouldn't look into it too deeply. If this trend continues, he's not going to do much in the NBA if he keeps playing like this.
Miami's a good spot for him, where kind of in that defensive minded, where people are like, oh, they lose Duncan Robinson. And I'm not saying it's a 1-to-1 comp, but Dalton Connect just getting into that 9-10 range in the rotation of just get threes up every now and then. Hot shooter, he can be in and out. Because Duncan Robinson, if people don't remember, Duncan has now been in the NBA for a long time, but he has been in the Spo doghouse where you didn't see Duncan Robinson for months. He would be out of the rotation and then he'd be back, and he had a very up and down. So it's not crazy that Dalton Connect lost his spot in the rotation for JJ and that team last year. The problem is it's a weird roster. The Lakers, I think, are in a weird spot because I just don't know what's going to happen with LeBron. And if he opted in, but it's also, I don't know, there's just some weird stuff about which way the Lakers are going now in the Luka era. Like you said, the Mark Williams trade, I imagine just on a human level, that probably really sucked for Dalton. And then that's just kind of awkward. You guys wanted to trade me clearly and package me, and now I have to just keep playing. And it's part of it being a job. And that's what this is. It's a business, but it does suck. I just imagine on a human level that just sucked for Dalton. But I also think that would have been better. And I think in terms of Charlotte, I think Charlotte would have been a good spot for him. I mean, they just drafted Con Knipple. They have a bunch of shooting. And I think Charlotte's actually kind of with Trey Mann and company, they're going all in on offense. Charlotte is building a team of I don't think we're going to LaMelo Ball is a super volatile player, and some people really like him, some people don't. I don't think anyone's just kind of he's fine. I think you either really like LaMelo Ball or you don't like LaMelo Ball's game at all. And I do think that would be fun for Dalton, but I also I don't know. And the reason I throw out Miami is I just think that's the most Rick Barnes type team, where it's just defense is first, great coaching, very strict rotation. Guys are in and out. Spo either trusts you or he doesn't, and you've got to play defense to stay on the court. But guys who kind of get lost in shuffle in other areas, like Davion Mitchell became a key guy for Miami and gave Trae Young fits in that final playing game. And I don't know. That's the one that kind of jumps out to me, is somebody like Miami could make sense. And then the Hoop Collective podcast with Windhorst and Tim McMahon were talking about Dalton, and they said, so this is Windhorst. He said on the pod, the thing about Knecht, action over words, the Lakers have already traded him once. The second thing is, as the season went along, JJ Redick stopped playing him. He's a rookie. Lots of rookies have struggled to get playing time early in their careers. There was a time when people thought this was one of the steals of the draft. And then he continued when he was talking about Summer League. For all I know, he'll hit his next 12 threes, but I'm monitoring that development, especially since there's a chance he could be traded again, depending on what the Lakers want to do with their roster. And then Tim McMahon replied, this was not a weekend where his value was boosted, and Windhorse wrapped up with exactly that's my point. So I don't know. I do think it does seem like it will not be a big time surprise if Knecht gets traded this summer, Ryan.
Yeah, I think that would be good for him. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't watched him a ton of Summer League, so I don't have much to weigh in there other than just what I've seen others say online. I would agree with Ethan's assessment that he just hasn't seemed like the same guy since the Mark Williams trade last February or January, whenever that was. I am curious, Chase, like a lot of what you were describing with the Heat, like to me, that doesn't make sense for Dalton. Like Duncan Robinson got lost on the roster.
No, but he also played important playoff minutes. Like he would up and out. Like what I'm saying is Duncan has a long NBA career because he was in the Heat system for so long. I think that helped him in a major way. Just having they trusted the Heat love niche guys. Like, hey, if you are just a hot and cold volume shooter and that kind of thing, we'll live in when you're on and we trust you, you're gonna play. And when you're not, we're not gonna play you. Like it's just he's stuck. Like they kept paying Duncan Robinson. Like the Heat lost faith and
because they gave him a big contract early.
Right, but I'm saying he got to.
Well, yeah, of course they kept paying him. He was under contract. Well, he wasn't a free agent.
I think
I can see what you're saying. I can see that being good for him in the long term. I don't know. When we're talking about a guy that seems low on confidence right now, I don't necessarily see how going to a defense first team where his minutes are going to be largely tied to that / him, if he gets hot, maybe pulling. Like I don't necessarily see how that in short term is a good fit. I see what you're saying.
Well, if you have a lot of defensive guys, Knecht is more helpful, right? Like that's part of why Duncan Robinson can be helpful is when you're playing a bunch of defense first guys, like Knecht can get on the floor because you need some guys who can help space and can get a shot and get hot in a hurry. Like when you have Jimmy Butler, who's a mid-range guy, you're playing against the math anyway. You do need guys like Duncan Robinson, Dalton Knecht, and on the floor. And I don't know. That's the one. Ethan, do you have another Dalton Knecht team?
A sneaky team. I was kind of first, I think he should go to a team that's rebuilding, for one. I think that's the best type of place for him, where he can find a role somewhere rather than just having to kind of hope for specific, not injuries, but, movements that the team is just looking for. I kind of think Chicago is a sneaky, decent place for him, just because of the small forward. I mean, I guess they got Io, who's doing fairly well early, but that's not a team necessarily that I'm like, he's going to get completely overshadowed. I'm not going to say Utah. I honestly don't think Utah would be a good place for him right now because they have a pretty set path. But I don't know, like a team like Chicago, a team like the Pelicans, a team like Charlotte, like you said, Chase. I thought Charlotte was a perfect landing spot for him, and obviously.
Also, they would sell out, man. Like Grant and Dalton. I mean, those two on the same team together, like you could get some Tennessee fans in there. There's a lot of Tennessee fans in North Carolina. You can market that in a pretty big way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope for the best with Dalton, but I do think no matter what, I want him out of Los Angeles, which is crazy because this time last year we were like, wow, Lakers got a steal. It makes a lot of sense. Lakers trying to win now, and Dalton's an older player. Like he's going to get to play with LeBron. This is. Things change in a hurry, man, 1 year later. But I just hope Dalton finds the right team, and I just don't think it's going to be in Los Angeles. Speaking of Dalton Bargo, Ryan Schumpert, as we continue on our Vols baseball season review series, Dalton Bargo, left fielder, maybe his last year. We'll still see TBD if Dalton Bargo has played his last game as a Tennessee Volunteer. But what did you make of his 2025 season? How did he fare? What did he get better at from the previous year? And where did he struggle the most in 25?
It's an interesting thing to say because how his season ended, which kind of puts a sour tint on it. But I just think he proved that he was a capable SEC bat and a capable everyday player in the SEC. I mean, he was such a utility guy who was never able to kind of stick and grab that DH spot in 2024 for Tennessee. He had some good stretches when at third when Billy Amick had his appendix removed or there in the middle of the season, but you were just kind of curious if he could put it all together. And for most of SEC play, that's what he did. I mean, I know I've said it on here before, but he was in SEC play in the regular season. He was Tennessee's third best hitter, I think, on the team. He had an OPS that was better than Blake Burke in SEC play in 2024, which is insane. That doesn't make any sense to just the human eye. So I think he proved that he could be an SEC bat. Again, the sour tint on that is that he was just lifeless to end the season at the plate when Tennessee, really, really needed him in the postseason. So, maybe someone would argue with that, but I think that's where college baseball can sometimes be cruel. A 2.5 week stretch where you're really bad at the plate in the MLB is, frustrating and bad, but not the end of the world. A 2.5 week stretch in college baseball, especially depending on when it happens, it kind of is the end of the world or can be for a player if one of their key guys doesn't. That's what happened with Bargo. So you knew the utility was there. I think, I think I said it before. He's, I think, a slightly below average defender at a lot of different positions, which again is probably more valuable in professional baseball than it is in college baseball. But as Tennessee kind of shuffled the deck and tried to figure out some things with what its best 9 was throughout SEC play, I think that was valuable because he was definitely one of the best 9 and he could play a couple of different spots. But I guess the last thing I would just say to close on Dalton Bargo is, it'd be easy to forget. Early in the season, it did not look like he was going to be a starter. So
yeah,
for as sour as his season ended, for him to be as productive as he was in SEC play, I think was a huge success. And while at this time last year, we would have, it wouldn't have been a massive surprise, it didn't necessarily look like that was going to be the case the first month of the season.
Yeah, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for fighting through adversity, especially early on. And that, what the other thing about baseball, which is why it just sucks when guys end on a bad note, is like, I think, wasn't it you last week who talked about his SEC, was it his OPS or something about his SEC play and like how it was better than someone's
Blake,
in it?
Yeah, in 24.
Blake Burke, right? Yeah. But you don't remember all that because you remember how it ended. But if he had gone through that cold spell to start the year and it ended how he did, like everyone would be like, man, I would love to have Dalton Bargo back. You know what I mean? Like that's just
the Hunter Ensley situation.
Yeah.
From 25 over the course of the season, he was a better player than he was in 24, but he was just hot at the right time in 24 and not in 25. So, and obviously Tennessee winning national championship plays into that, but you'll remember
he
a lot
really
more
struggled
fondly.
in SEC play. They were moving around the lineup in 24. Like Hunter was going through it at the plate.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Dalton Bargo in SEC play slashed 312, 364, 624. So for 988 OPS, 11 doubles, which was the most on the team in SEC play, 7 home runs, which was tied for the second most on the team in SEC play, 22 RBIs, which was third most on the team in SEC play. So really, by any statistic you want to look at, he was really one of the most consistent and reliable hitters for Tennessee, kind of until he wasn't.
Yeah, and I just think there are people who are like, I don't want Dalton Bargo back. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. Like Dalton Bargo, I would absolutely welcome back with open arms. Like Dalton Bargo one more year, absolutely sign me up. Dalton Bargo in the cleanup hole, probably not. Dalton Bargo back one more year in the 6, 7, maybe even 5 spot. Yes, absolutely. 10 out of 10 would absolutely take Dalton Bargo back.
Yeah, I think that's where, I think we talked about it on the radio last week, where it's a little bit of, he was kind of forced to be more than Tennessee needed him to be more than probably what he is naturally. I think I made the same comparison on the radio show where it's like what Kyle Tucker's been for the Cubs, where having that bona fide stud in the middle of the lineup is kind of, I think, just freed up everybody else to just naturally be who they are. And I think that's kind of the case for Bargo. A lot of the season, he was good enough to hold up, and he wasn't the best 4-hole hitter, cleanup hitter in SEC, but he was productive enough. But a bad stretch for Dalton Bargo in the 7, 6, 7, 8 hole, it's a lot less detrimental than a bad stretch for him in the cleanup spot like it was for Tennessee to end this past season.
Ethan, we did most underrated big in the Rick Barnes era last week. The most underrated wing in the Rick Barnes era for you is who?
Yeah, I had to think about the question last week. It's kind of easy to say because he played here for 5 years, and I feel like the fans kind of favored up to him a little more as he went along, as he progressed in his career. But I kind of think he was a similar player throughout those entire 5 years. He gave you the stuff you don't see on the stat sheet. He was kind of a lesser Jemima Shack in that regard. an elite defender, a better rebounder than you'd think for his size. And I think what was especially valuable about James is, I mean, he could play 1 through 4 if you absolutely needed it, as he played a little bit at the 4. But if Barnes needed him to, he could probably play at the 5 for not many minutes, but he could in a break glass in case of an emergency situation. You could put him at the 5, and I think that versatility was just massive for Tennessee teams that were kind of transitioning into the Elite 8 teams that we've had in the 2 back-to-back years. And obviously he was huge on that last in 2024 in the run where Tennessee, obviously playing alongside Dalton Knecht when the Vols kind of needed a number 2 behind him. I'm not saying Josiah was that guy the entire time, but he put up a couple games.
Really good in that Texas game in the tournament.
Yeah, he was. He just had a few underrated games. I mean, I think underrated is a perfect word for him. I think some Vol fans, some just college basketball fans in general, just really overlook what he did at Tennessee. And it wasn't the sexiest stat lines all the time, but he always did something to impact the game on the court, and that's bigger than you'd think, especially in the college game.
Yeah, I think Triple J is a good one, and I think he's a good pull in a lot of ways. But I do think it's interesting because he's a 4 5-star. He was a big win at the time. Like, it feels like forever ago.
Well, go ahead. I'll make my point.
Well, I mean, I just think you just don't know how blue chip guys are going to adapt to being team first guys. Where it's clear that you're not getting the Nate Ament treatment at Tennessee. Like, you're going to be a different kind of player. You can be extremely valuable, but we're not going, you're going to have to evolve, because Josiah-Jordan James, I'm sure, was just unbelievable at the high school level and was the guy on his teams. And then he had to evolve.
I did play with Baron Smith.
Oh,
so he might not have been a guy till his senior year.
That's true. So there you go. But I do think he deserves so much credit for being a great leader. Like, Josiah just really was a natural leader and was around forever and loved UT. Like, he's someone I think we're going to see back around UT a lot years from now. I think he's someone who's going to be an ambassador for, like you said, he wore a lot of different hats every year because the team around him kept changing, and Triple J had to keep getting accustomed. Like, even in his last year, I mean, Dalton was a huge change for what he was being asked to do and how he functioned around a player like Dalton Knecht. So, I don't know. I agree that Josiah-Jordan James, there's a lot of 5-stars who don't go down that rabbit hole, who don't just lock into being team first guys and do whatever it takes every year and evolve with the team and the roster change and turnover and just get better and keep figuring it out and keep making the most of it. And also, I don't know. I just think he's just likable. Like, it was just a good player that everyone liked, and I just think he's a great 5-star long-term case where it's like some of these guys were Julian Phillips, man. Like, you get a couple more years, like, who knows what you could have potentially developed into as a glue guy for Tennessee. But I don't know. I do think Triple J was a great story, and yeah, I like that call. Do you have a different one, Ryan?
No, I think that's a no-brainer. The thing, a couple notes I would just add, I think, he was hurt so much, just perception, by being a 5-star in the long run. If he had been the number 60 player in the country, I think he really would have been beloved. And I think people kept waiting for him to be something that he wasn't, which was a go-to scorer. Yeah. And I think once you accepted Josiah-Jordan James for what he was, which was a really good glue guy that was just going to be streaky offensively and not a reliable scorer, you could just appreciate how important he was to Tennessee and how many different things he did. And Ethan laid it out. I wrote about it in 2024, to your point, Chase, about how I thought Dalton was such a good thing for Josiah. He took a lot of offensive pressure off of him, and Josiah was a fantastic player for Dalton to play beside because he could clean up so many of Dalton's mistakes defensively, especially as he was growing early in that season. So to me, he's a no-brainer just because of a lot of those reasons. Like, I think he was the definition of underrated, even though to the naysayers, point, he could really be maddening at times offensively with some of his inconsistencies. And then just on the other hand, like, Tennessee, there hasn't been a whole lot of middle ground on Tennessee's wings. They've had a guy like Dalton Knecht, who is unbelievable, and they've had a ton of years where they just haven't had very good wings, so they've played 3 guards a ton of the time. I mean, the early, Admiral is very beloved as a wing player, as he should be. Jordan Bowden played some 3, but he was really a guard. The 2021-22 team played 3 guards with Zakai, Kennedy, and Santi a lot. And, I think you would Jemai, I think properly rated and beloved. So I don't really think there's a ton of guys. I think everybody else, I guess the point I'm trying to say is everybody else that was a wing at Tennessee, I think is kind of viewed pretty accurately, which to me makes Josiah the obvious choice.
I like it.
One thing I'll just add, throwback wing name. Not really underrated, but I was just trying to go through my head as I was looking at the rundown for other possibilities. Throwback wing name, Jalen Johnson.
Jalen Johnson.
He had some moments on that 2019-20 team. Not a very good team, but he had a couple moments.
That is a throwback name. I haven't thought about Jalen Johnson, and I couldn't tell you, Ryan. That's
a long time.
That's amazing. Mercer legend, Jalen Johnson, if I remember correctly.
That's right. I'd completely forgotten about that. I knew he transferred. I didn't remember where he ended up at.
That's a good pull. Ryan, is it time to pencil in Ariel Antigua, Appy League legend, as starting shortstop in 2026 for the Vols?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
We're not even particularly close to that. I think we will continue to see. I don't have any sort of name. This isn't even necessarily any insight, just from general conversations and Phil. I do think Tennessee will continue to look to add an infielder in the portal. Maybe we'll see how the draft goes. And even then, I think it becomes a lot more realistic that Ariel Antigua is a starting shortstop, but I'm going to need to see a fall practice of how everything looks before I say I'm comfortable penciling him in as the starter.
Interesting. I'm really curious to see what happens there because, he's raking. It's so much fun to watch the Appy League and what he's doing over there. He's having a great time. Great story. It would be if he, it's just kind of interesting too. Like, I think we all just assumed that he was entering the portal after this year, and he's back, man. Like, Ariel is, you know what I like about that? Ariel is a competitor. Like, Ariel clearly likes Tennessee, and he's confident in himself. You ready for this? You ready?
Yep.
Jack is going to love this. I'm buying back Ariel Antigua stock. We're so back on the 2026. I'm talking myself back into Ariel and Manny on the left side of the infield.
Someone please note this right now. The 32-minute mark on our podcast, on the Chase Thomas podcast on July 8th, I guess is when this is coming out. I will guarantee you by the third week of the season, if Ariel and Manny are on the left side of the infield and not raking against poor competition, Chase will say, there's no way you can keep on going with these two guys in the lineup. You can't have these contact hitters that are inconsistent and not power bats.
Well, hold on.
There's no chance you can win with them.
Manny better not be a contact hitter in 2026. I don't know what the Uncrustable Quentin Eberhard workout plan is here this offseason. We need that oppo power in 2026. Manny better not be a contact hitter in 26. Tennessee needs him.
He can have more power, but I think you're getting ahead of yourself if you're thinking he's going from 3 homers to 15 homers all of a sudden.
I need at least double digits. Like, Manny's got to be a double-digit homer guy next year.
I would set the over/under at about 8.5.
Not enough. Ethan just made a.
So we're already here. We're already at this point. You can already throw in the fact that the catcher offensive production probably won't be awesome because it rarely is, and Chase is just going to be bemoaning the offense of this number of players.
No, we're talking ourselves into Ariel just being like contact hitter, but he gets on base. He's batting .323, no homers, 7 RBIs.
He'll get a homer if he's an everyday starter. Not many, but he'll get one. I've seen him hit a homer in practice before.
And he'll be electric.
And he hit a couple close this past year.
But like I said, I am being 100% genuine when I say I love that this dude's a competitor. Like, there is no question, like, this guy is a confident competitor that wants to be the starting shortstop at Tennessee.
Yeah.
That is, and, I'm rooting for him now. Like, I'm all in now. I'm back in on Ariel Antigua, where we got to cut down on the errors. We got to get better, obviously, at the plate. But he's doing well in Appy League. Buy back the Ariel Antigua stock. Like, he's a great story. Like, I think that should be celebrated for what he is choosing to do, because a lot of guys are not choosing this path that Ariel Antigua is choosing.
1,000%. I completely agree with that. Like, it's very cool to see a guy compete for a second straight year. You know, he was in the same boat last year, probably even bleaker situation last year. But to see him do that again is super cool. I'm going to need to see a little bit more than some Appy League success before I'm truly an Ariel advocate. But it is super cool. And on the same note, super cool Tegan Kuntz is doing the same thing.
Yes.
It was really never a question. He was locked and loaded coming back for his sophomore year after obviously kind of, not pitching for Tennessee in the NCAA tournament.
I'm not going to do this, but I will say, seeing lines like Tegan Kuntz got better as the game went on just hurt me to my core. Ryan Schumpert, it was like, oh, would have liked to see more of that this past year. Would have liked to see Tegan Kuntz work out of traffic, work out of some tough situations a little bit more in 2025.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess
good.
I guess my question to you there, because I was with you. Like for a while, I did want to see. I wanted to see more Tegan Kuntz. I wanted to see them give him some leeway to try to work out of those jams. So I agree with that. Are you pushing back against? Do you think they mishandled him in the NCAA tournament? Because I don't really think. See, I don't. Really
I think they should have tried. I think he should have been a part of it. I don't know. Do you? I don't know if that's something you can. I don't know. It was just odd. He just disappeared. Tegan Kuntz just.
Well, one in Arkansas it made no sense. They got bludgeoned in 2 games, so it didn't really make sense to throw him there. It was odd. I agree with you, but I mean, if I'm just going in situation to situation, what's your best chance to win these games with the pitchers that they went with? I can't say I felt a ton differently. I'm not saying it. You could say start him over Loy in whichever game that was.
Yeah.
And I forget which game that was in the regional. I guess the 3rd game, the first Wake Forest game. I wouldn't have hated that, but I also completely see why they didn't go with Tegan Kuntz and how he had not inspired a lot of confidence leading into that.
Maybe. But yeah, either way, Tegan Kuntz doing great. Tegan Kuntz doing great. Ariel Antigua doing great. Jaxon Walker. Is that Loudon Jaxon Walker's music? Ryan Schumpert and Ethan, I promise we'll get back to you on the baseball front. But this is also encouragement for you to get locked in on baseball next year. And I mean, what I'm going to be like after the draft in Atlanta, that first podcast, depending on how it goes for Tennessee, Ryan Schumpert, who's unfortunately going to have to be a part of the podcast and talk about it.
Maybe not. I'm on vacation the week of the draft.
Are you?
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm calling you. We're doing a live pod. I'm just calling you from vacation. We're doing a live check-in from Ryan on the golf course wherever in parts unknown. We're doing it because I'm either going to be let's go, waking up the neighbors, he's making it to campus, or I'm just going to be it's never been more over. And I don't know. I'm not ready for what's to come for the MLB draft in July.
Yeah, I mean, that's accurate. You will be one way or the other, 100%. There's no doubt about that. But to Jaxon Walker, yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy that's gonna have a chance to compete for stuff in the outfield, and he had a nice fall. I would say of the freshmen, he was behind that group of 4 that we saw all season in the field. But to me, he was the best freshman behind that group. So yeah, I think he, we'll see. I'm certainly not penciling him in as a starter. I wouldn't predict him as a starter, but crazier things have happened. I certainly wouldn't have been predicting Hunter Inslee as a starter in the outfield in 2023 at this time. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
More pop though. Jaxon Walker looks like he's got some pop.
Yeah, he does.
Jaxon Walker that'd be a fun story out of nowhere. Cause I just think the outfield, we were talking about on the radio show today about Tyler Myatt and the expectations. That's a big jump up, man, from Walter State to Tennessee and the SEC play. I think you got to be very careful with your expectations for Tyler Myatt.
Yeah.
Great local story, but we'll see. I don't even know if I'm 100% penciling him as an everyday starter yet. I just think
I'm not.
Yeah, I just don't think that's
penciling him in.
But I think a lot of
the JUCO guys, it's very hit or miss. It's very hit or miss on the JUCO guys, and he was phenomenal. So if you're gonna have optimism about a JUCO guy, he would be the guy. It's just me being seasoned to see it until I believe it. I wouldn't say skeptical, but see it until I believe it with JUCO guys just applies here. And the fact that the positional stuff is a little wonky too.
Yeah. I think the positional stuff is a little wonky for most people on this roster in 2026. I don't know. I will tell you, I was watching Chris Newstrom. Chris Newstrom bats like Trey Lipscomb a little bit. I was saying, I'm there's some Trey Lipscomb to Chris Newstrom.
Yeah, I could see that.
Maybe more upside early on. Trey waited his turn. You need Newey to be a dude, and he might be your starting third baseman next year. We'll see. Ethan
He'll start
Stone.
somewhere. I'll pencil Newstrom in somewhere. We're talking penciling in. I'm saying I'm not penciling guys in. I'll pencil him in.
Oh,
somewhere.
this is another one. Just like Newstrom needs to be a star. Like, just go ahead and lock that one in. Newey better be one of your starters. Newey's a good player. Lock it in. Newey has like the least amount of bust potential of the freshmen, I think, from this past year going to next year.
Yeah, I agree with that. He has a very high floor.
Yeah. Ethan, make your prediction. Vols football's most surprising game result will be which one in 2025? What do you think, as of right now, is going to be the most? It could be a positive or a negative result. What do you think it's going to ultimately be that Vol fans will most be like, whoa?
I unfortunately do not have a fun and risky answer for this because
I just thought you were going to have an answer, and I was like, all right,
well. I don't know. I do have an answer. I don't
the
think
question.
It's a fun and risky one. Because I've kind of held strong that I think this is a 9-3, 8-4, 10-2 team for the entire summer, which kind of means that I think the Vols are going to lose to Georgia. I think they're going to lose to Alabama. I played with the idea of giving Georgia this answer just because it's Georgia's first real game. They replace a lot on the offensive line, and Gunnar Stockton is still kind of a question mark right now, but I can't ultimately say that that's going to be a surprising result because I think Georgia's just the better football team right now. So my answer is going to be the Florida game because that's the one that I think has the most question marks around it. I think it's going to be tough to beat Alabama and Tuscaloosa. I think it's going to be tough to beat Georgia in general. I'm of the opinion that Tennessee's going to beat Oklahoma just because it's at home. Florida's the game that it's like, going into Gainesville, a place Tennessee hasn't won in a long time. I think I would probably lean Florida if you ask me right now, but I can see a world where Tennessee goes in and beats Florida for the first time in a long time. And obviously that would be a surprise. Like I say, it's not a very fun answer because honestly, I just kind of think Tennessee's schedule is what it is right now. I don't see Mississippi State or Kentucky or obviously New Mexico State, Arkansas, any of those guys really pulling off an upset. And obviously we said that about Arkansas last year as well. But I just don't really think I think Oklahoma and Florida are kind of the two wild card teams. So it's otherwise I think Tennessee wins all these games. I think they're outmatched against Alabama and Georgia. So those are really the two that are left. I think Oklahoma being at home gives Tennessee the advantage. And I think Florida's going to be the wild card game. So I'll give you that as my answer. I could see Tennessee going in and beating Florida, and that would certainly be a surprising result for a lot of SEC fans.
Interesting. Y'all don't have it. I just realized y'all don't have a memory of Tennessee winning in Gainesville.
Yeah. No.
Like just
that's what would definitely be surprising.
Like y'all literally will have no context for it. Like what that's even like.
Nope. None for Tennessee winning in Tuscaloosa either.
That's true. That's crazy. Ryan, is Florida yours or a different one?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my whole thing in this question is you want me to say something I don't believe?
No.
I want you to say something. Well, and I don't have an answer for you then.
Yeah.
All right.
That was my view as well, Ryan, for what it's worth. I didn't really have an answer.
If I'm saying most likely, I'll say Mississippi State on the negative, Georgia on the positive.
Interesting.
Maybe Florida on the positive. I go back.
Y'all haven't said what I would say here.
More likely.
And I have two answers. I think Arkansas and or Oklahoma. I think fans are going to go into those games at home really fired up, expecting to blow them out, not be a close one. Heupel's not lost a home game in 3 years. Maybe Arkansas is the best bet here, where I think they're going to go in. Arkansas has slot fest potential of Texas A&M, Tennessee 2023 potential for me, where I could see that game being really ugly on both sides at that point, especially if they make a quarterback change at that point, because I think that is a possibility. There's a bye in between Mississippi State on the road to Arkansas at home. Arkansas has always given Tennessee problems. It's just a weird matchup that I think folks might pencil in. So Arkansas is probably my favorite answer here. And I don't know if y'all remember last year on this program, I was the only one who stood up for what he believed in when it came to Tennessee's potential issues in Fayetteville last year. I'll say here, I think people are gonna be like, oh, just gonna blow them out like South Carolina did when they came into town in 2023. And that we're going to flip the script. I don't know. Like, I think Tennessee is absolutely going to beat Arkansas. But if you're telling my prediction that I think people are going to be surprised is like they're going to be sweating in that building in the fourth quarter. Like if Arkansas, like Tennessee they're a lock to like not cover against Arkansas.
Let me go ahead and get out in front of this. There's going to be a lot of slop on the football field for Tennessee this year. If you're expecting Tennessee to score 40 points and blow out a lot of SEC teams,
yeah,
I got news for you, buddy.
But I think fans they're going to be surprised that Arkansas is close, is what I'm saying. I think that's going to be the surprising result. Is they're like, whoa, why is it 13-17 against Arkansas midway through the fourth quarter?
If we're just saying SEC games are going to be close, as surprising results, and that exercise became a lot easier.
Ryan Schumpert hates this season. You shouldn't be allowed inside the Neyland press box. The agenda's been set. Ryan Schumpert, I'm worried about Ryan on the beat this fall. Like, let Ryan take this fall off and let him, because he's not going to approach Jake Merklinger fairly. I can already see that. Mike Matthews, Parkview legend, fairly. I'm noticing a trend here. Ethan, you might have to stand in for Ryan.
You know what I am about Merk. And I can't say it on this podcast. I've been forbidden to.
Chase has forbade Ryan from saying what he truly thinks about Jake Merklinger.
Yeah, how dare you? I already am ready. The first time Jake Merklinger throws a touchdown pass to Mike Matthews, I have the picture saved in internet photo album on my phone of Jake Merklinger and Mike Matthews at Severe Heights Church on Easter. And Jake Merklinger dressed like a high schooler trying to be a fraternity brother. And Mike Matthews in the plain white t-shirt and jorts. It's the best picture I've ever seen. So don't.
It's an electric combination. Those two being superstars at Tennessee, just fantastic stuff. I couldn't be more happy. I'll be unbearable by all accounts all week long. Like, it's just, if it happens, if they both break out at the same time, I'll be unbearable.
This is what's hitting me for the very first time right now. What's going to be unbearable is when Merklinger leads a touchdown drive against ETSU. And you're just going to be so over the top about it.
Did y'all see that?
It's a good dance.
Shout out to Merk.
Shout out to Merk.
Man.
The Merkman.
The Merkman.
I
was nervous. I got to wrap this podcast up because Ryan talking about Jake Merklinger too long is dangerous stuff. Just dangerous stuff on this very program. Ethan Stone, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at Saturday Down South this week?
Yeah, the SEC Network takeover is still going on, so we're working through all the 16 SEC teams. I've got a Tennessee piece ready for July 10th, I believe, is when Tennessee's is, and then I think I'll have a Texas A&M one. It might be Texas. I haven't quite worked that out yet, but we'll have more content coming later this week, and then obviously recruiting, basketball, and whatever else is going on the news desk and for SEC and Big Ten football.
There you go. What about you, Ryan Schumpert, over at RockyTopInsider.com?
Yeah, Tennessee football recruiting stuff. And then this week, getting geared up. A lot of Tennessee baseball. Expect some more transfer portal news this week. And then expect, getting ready for the MLB draft. So we'll have stuff on that. And then when the draft gets going on Sunday, we'll have a ton of coverage because, as Chase accurately pointed out, there's going to be a lot of people sweating stuff. So we'll have tons of coverage on that.
There you go. Ryan Schumpert, Ethan Stone, always a pleasure, and I'll talk to y'all again next week.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.